Hello and welcome into Pat Talks Hockey, where I am Pat and I talk hockey. Of course, that's why you're here. Uh, Today we're going to be talking about the Bruins trade deadline and what they should do. Before that, I'd like to let you know where I've been. I've been at school. I've been on winter break. I've been sick the last 3 weeks. Last semester I shared a room with a roommate. This semester I have my own room, so I'm going to be posting a lot more because I'm going to have a lot more free time. More freedom to post, more freedom to film without having to ask a roommate to be quiet or leave. I go to the University of Maine. I got the jersey behind me, represent. Got the Bruins over here. Those are the two teams I follow the most right now because I'm at the school, and Bruins for life, as you know. Plans for the channel, I plan on probably posting like 2 to 3 times a week. Don't hold me to it, but once the playoffs start, I will post for every Bruins game, recapping my thoughts, analysis, and all that. So you have that to look forward to. Expect a lot of videos this spring. Now let's get into today's topic. Today we're going to be talking about what the Bruins should do at the trade deadline. As you can see in the article that I clipped here from CBS on the right, or NBC, I'm not 100% sure, but you can see it's by Joe Haggerty. The Bruins are shopping for a winger ahead of the NHL trade deadline. The names you've probably seen if you've been on Twitter or if you read are Tyler Toffoli and Chris Kreider. Now, both these players would be decent additions, but I think a lot of fans aren't doing their due diligence to look beyond this. When you look at Tyler Toffoli and you look at Chris Kreider, they obviously slot really well into that second right wing spot, and it's really about how much you want to pay and what you want to bring to the team. Now, Chris Kreider brings a very powerful skating game with a scoring ability, a lot like what Charlie Coyle does, but on the wing, and he does it at an elite level. And Chris Kreider is what you want this trade deadline, in my opinion. He brings something that is the Bruins play style. I really see a seamless transition. Now, Tyler Toffoli, on the other hand, is a lot cheaper, in my opinion, to acquire. I can't imagine you have to part ways with a first-round pick. I can't imagine you have to part ways with a good young defensive prospect. I really don't see what universe LA gets a haul for Tyler Toffoli. He's only had like one 20-goal season or something like that. And he would be a pure rental, just like Kreider would probably be a pure rental, because cap space-wise, you would like to see them be able to sign Chris Kreider in the offseason, but you can't always guarantee that. There's no guarantee that either of those players would be here beyond this year. Maybe Toffoli, because you probably get him cheaper, but I'm not sure you want that. I'm not sure Toffoli thrives in Boston. I'm not convinced by that. I'm willing to see it if it's the only option. And the last article over here, it says at the trade deadline and that the Los Angeles Kings right winger was essentially in their hip pocket over a month ago, which shows you that the Bruins want bigger, but they have this to fall back on, which I think is interesting. Now, when I looked into rentals, you look for players who played over 10 games on expiring contracts and have at least 10 goals, because you need goal scoring. And when you look at this list right here, you see a lot of players who you will not be able to get. Nicholas Backstrom, no. You see Taylor Hall, that's a no. Braden Shen isn't going to be traded to us. Mike Hoffman and Evgeny Dodonov, not going to happen. Unlikely to get Patrick Marleau. So when you really get down to the bare bones of this, you could see a world where you get Mikael Granlund, but cap hit's a little bigger, a little harder to swindle and move for him. Not really sure he brings the play style you want. I wouldn't like that. Derek Ranson, no, he's just not good enough. Vladimir Nemestikov, maybe. Eric Halla, maybe. Craig Smith's an intriguing one. I wouldn't mind that. But it's clearly Tyler Toffoli and Chris Kreider who you want from this list. Those are the best options in my opinion. Because outside of that, you really either got people you can't trust like Zach Cassian or Derek Grant, or you got people you just can't get. Now, John Gabriel Pageau would be a great acquisition, but I don't think Ottawa wants to trade him. I think they really like him there. And 20-goal season, you're buying high for a rental who you probably won't sign after this year. So I think Tyler Toffoli and Chris Kreider are clearly the options there. So good on the Boston reporters for reporting that, and good on the Bruins for looking at those two as the key rentals, because I think they clearly are the two best rentals. Now, then you go to the Bruins cap situation, because this is what you want to look at if you're thinking maybe you want something beyond this year. Maybe you want a 1 year, you want him to play this year and then be guaranteed for next year, kind of like what Coyle did, whereas like Johansson last year, he was a pure rental, whereas Charlie Coyle had term. Maybe you want someone with a little term. So you look at the Bruins cap situation, and I'm doing this basically to talk about who do you think is going to be here and who do you not think is going to be there, and what the numbers you see these guys coming back for are. Now, I'm going to start at the bottom and work up, because why not? Yaroslav Halak is not coming back for 275 at the age of 34. It wouldn't happen. So he's a big maybe, because he might be able to get a similar number somewhere else, and I wouldn't blame him for going for that. But he would have to sign very cheap for us to be able to keep, in my opinion, just because of his age. So that's a big maybe. You got Jeremy Lozon, who, if not traded for something, will be signed for cheap, because he hasn't played much in the AHL, so he's getting a very cheap deal. Matt Grzelcyk, I put him in the maybe the maybe category, because you have a lot of defensive depth on the Bruins. You have a lot of young guys who can push into this lineup, and you have a lot of guys signed. Now, I don't want to see Grzelcyk go, but I put him in the maybe because you don't have him yet, and he would be cheap for someone to claim on an RFA. But I would think you see Grzelcyk back, but I put him as a maybe because you just never know. Zdeno Chara is a maybe because he could retire. He's old, and that's the only reason he's in the maybe. If he signs for under $2 million, you bring him back, in my opinion. Torrey Krug is a definite. You have to bring Torrey Krug back. The amount of scoring he brings from the back end, you can't replace that. No one on this roster brings that to the table. You're not getting that power play production out of anyone else. You can't just make that guy up here. And the number I think you get Krug around is probably like you're probably paying $6 million for Krug. I think Krug is worth $6 million, and I think that's what you probably end up paying him. You into the forwards, Carson Kuhlman would definitely be kept. Jake DeBrusk will definitely be kept. Jake DeBrusk can probably get $4 to $5 million, I would think. I'd say probably lower fours, probably a short-term deal, kind of like what McAvoy and Carlo did, where they signed like a 3-4 year deal, and then he gets his big deal when he turns like 27, or as big of a deal as he can get. Because Jake DeBrusk is having a very good year, 17 goals this year, easily going to get to the mid-20s. And when you score like that at that young of age, and you want a bridge deal, you're probably getting like $4 to $5 million, 3-4 years, and then he'll sign the big contract. Anders Bjork will probably be brought back on a $1 to $2 million deal. When he's in the lineup, he brings a good amount of pace to the lineup, and he has some ability. I'm not sure his ceiling goes beyond the third line though, but I would like Anders Bjork back. He's gonna be he could be as low as $1 million because of his shoulder issues and health. And then the last person, Joakim Nordstrom, I don't see him back. I don't see him coming back. You have too many young players who are gonna get better and probably take his spot. Like I think Carson Kuhlman can do Joakim Nordstrom's job, and they'll probably replace Nordstrom with someone else cheap if they need to. Bruins seem to cycle through depth players pretty often, as you can tell by Achari and Shaw are leaving. So then you look at something that not a lot of people are looking at, and that is the players with 1 year left on their contract. And you got to look at teams that really aren't fighting for playoff spots. So right away you can cross out Jaden Schwartz, you can cross out Ovechkin, obviously. You can cross out probably Paul Stastny, because he's a center. Anyone who's not a right wing, really. These are not going to get a center. Like Ryan Getzlaf, that's not happening. But some names that are really interesting who aren't on the best teams, as you can see David Krejci's there, but that's a different thing. You see players like Thomas Tatar, brings scoring 20 goals this year. The Canadiens are kind of floundering around like, are you a playoff team? Are you not? That would be a very late move if it happened, because the Canadiens would have to give up. I think they really like Thomas Tatar and what he brings, so that would be a heavy package to get. But Thomas Tatar would bring a very good amount of scoring. I don't think that happens. Brandon Gallagher I don't think would ever look right in a Boston Bruins jersey. But the ones that are really interesting to me, or the one that is the most interesting to me, is Kyle Palmieri. Now, Kyle Palmieri, 28 years old. When he's healthy, he has very, very high-end scoring ability when it comes to putting the puck in the net. Kyle Palmieri, fully healthy, is capable of 30 goals. Kyle Palmieri is on a 4.65 cap hit right now. If you get him for next year, you can create the space, because going into the offseason, you have $18 million in cap space, and I think Kyle Palmieri fits very well on that wing. And he's on a very bad Devils team, which would like to sell an older player who only has 1 year left on their contract, because the Devils probably do not believe that they can compete for a playoff spot next year either. That maybe they do, but I think you could get a Kyle Palmieri. Zach Hyman, you probably aren't trading with the Leafs. Joel Armia is probably a cheaper option for cap reasons and lower end scoring ability than Thomas Tatar. I wouldn't want that though. But you see some Blake Coleman's another one who I would like. I think Blake Coleman fits. Very cheap player. Blake Coleman and Kyle Palmieri. So I guess the Devils are really the guys I look to here if you're going to pick someone who has another year and who's worth the cap hit. Because the last thing you want to do is get someone who isn't worth the cap that you be paying them. Like, for example, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins at $6 million is good. That's not a good example. Who's someone bad? Getzlaff at 8.2. There's an example. Too old to be being paid that much. David Back is at 6. You don't want contracts like that. You want somebody who's worth what you're paying them. And I think Palmieri and Coleman would both be worth it next year. Now, obviously, if you're new to this channel, if you're new to this channel, you don't know this, but I've been preaching from the hilltops that the Bruins need a right wing for the last, since I started the channel, which would be the year that would be 2 seasons ago, I think, which is when I started, and they've not really addressed this hole, because last year they had Johansson play there a little bit. They had Johansson also on the third line, then he left, so that was like a temporary hole, and he did very well for us. But besides that, you really haven't had a solid right winger on the Bruins since like Nathan Horton, man, and that's like half a decade now. And I think it's kind of inexcusable to not have someone fill in there come the playoffs. And we want the Bruins to go on a deep run. They have the defensive core, they have the goaltending, they have the center depth, they have 2 good left wings on the first line, and Marchand, a great left wing. And then you got DeBrusk, who's coming into his own this year. I think this is Jake DeBrusk's best year, easily. And then you got the good depth. You got a good third line with Coyle leading it. You got the depth players. Everything's really there to have a shot at running to the cup. Because obviously you can have everything in place and it doesn't work out. I mean, look at Tampa last year. Not everything goes the way it should go in hockey. The best team doesn't always win. But you're not doing yourself a justice unless you put yourself in the best position to win. You can only blame yourself if you don't do that, and the Bruins would be doing that if they don't pick up a right wing at the deadline in some capacity. That's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed my first video in a while. If you like the video, hit the like button. You see that thumbs up. I always get the camera, like which way to move my thumb. Leave a comment on your thoughts on what you want the Bruins to do at the trade deadline. Also, I'd like to add, please subscribe if you want to follow my content. But last thing I'm going to say about the Bruins is not doing anything at the trade deadline isn't the end of the world, but it's just kind of concerning because you got to wonder, if you go into a playoff series against Tampa, will your first line get shut down like they did 2 years ago, and then you have to rely on the second line to carry some scoring, and they can't? Because that is very much a possibility when you face a team with the defensive structure of Tampa. But I think the Bruins have a very good shot of going deep this year, and I hope they increase those odds of going deep this year by acquiring a good second-line right winger. That's all I have for you today. Peace out, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.